I swear the most controlling people on the planet are people who have food trauma. People who are like the ultimate foodies because they have food trauma. Those are the most controlling people on the planet. And like, here's the thing, like, these are the people, and this is kind of started because I heard that people were getting depressed from Ozempic because they like didn't enjoy food anymore. And to me it's like I've been a whale. I've talked about my experience as a whale person. Like, and I was much happier losing the weight and not eating all of those things than I was eating all of those things. And the thing is like when you indulge, like for example, like my thing was like ice cream, like if you indulge in that, you eventually like stop enjoying it. Like let's like you know what I mean? You stop enjoying it, and then it even becomes gross to you, and then you're uncomfortable in your body, you know? And I just think that people who like are way too into food are just very like, because here's the thing, and I'm talking about like, I'm not saying like you can't enjoy food and stuff like that, but the people who are very like weird about food are also weird about the food that other people eat. And it's like a very basis of like not being able to control your body, like not feeling in control of yourself is like when you're obsessed with food. And I'm also coming from someone who has had like an eating disorder and stuff like that. Like you get like way too into food when you don't feel like you're in control of yourself. And then you become food, like controlling of the food that's like around you. And that's why these people are like foodies too. They get super into food. I really believe it's like a control thing. I think a lot of these people grew up with either parents who are also weird about food or from poverty, because like there is some lack of food there. There's some lack of food there. Either your parents like came from poverty, so they were weird about food and they just transfer that on to you. Or you came from poverty and now you're weird. Now you're wigged out about the food. It's like, it's about control, because I've been around people who like get way too emotional about food and stuff like that, and it's like annoying. It's annoying. And they get jealous if someone else, if they're like eating out somewhere and someone else has like, I guess, orders something that they also like. They get like jealous of other people's food, and they're just very obsessed with food. And this is why I could never be like a baker or anything like that. I can't think about food that much. You know what I mean? Like I think it's like a disorder, because even as someone who has had like an eating disorder and stuff like that, like I cannot think about food that much, and whenever I've done like little baking things here and there, and even that was like too much for me, like trying to get all the food perfect, and then you end up eating it to make sure it's, even if you're not like hungry, you're just like, you're like selling it, so you have to make sure it's right, so you're always like eating it, and then you feel gross and it's too much, you know what I mean? Like, and there's a reason why all people who are like chefs and bakers usually have like a weight problem. It's very rare to find one who doesn't have like a weight problem. And I think it's just like a very gross like mental state to be in. And that's what it is. It's like every single person who I've met in my life who was super duper controlling was also weird about food. That was like the number one thing. They would always be like, they always like had a thing about food, like I've been on dates with like controlling, like toxic guys who I immediately cut off. Like they didn't like it. Like they would order me, like on the, like, be at a restaurant, they'd order me the food, and then like they didn't like that I was eating the food that they ordered for me, like people, like that's like, if you see like weird, if like you're with anyone and there's any type of weirdness around food, I don't care what the relationship is, if they're like weird about food like that and they're like way too into food, I would cut that person off. Like honestly, like people like that are always super toxic. It's like, when you think of it, like food is such like a small thing. Like obviously we all need to eat to survive, but food is such like a small part of our lives. It shouldn't be that consuming. So when someone's controlling about food and they're like a foodie, it's because they have control issues. with their, like, they don't feel like they control their own body. When you become, and I've said this from a place of me being like obsessive about what I'm eating, and that was always when I was like in the highest form of having an eating disorder, is when I was just like obsessed with like food and like what I'm gonna eat and stuff like that. Like, if you're like that, like, it's because you don't feel like you're in control of your body. And people who don't feel like they can control themselves are the most controlling about other people. You know, that's what it is. If you feel like, if you're a foodie because you feel like you can't control yourself, and so, like, the way that you have the illusion that you can control yourself is by being, like, OCD about food and obsessive about food, you're definitely going to be toxic to the people around you. Because the people who are the most controlling of the people around them are the people who don't feel like they can control themselves.